Okay, right. Good afternoon, colleagues. Apologies for a little bit of a promotion in the beginning, and welcome to the presentation on the conceptualizations of mentorability, mixed methods exploration of mentee perspectives in a university program. And can we go to the next slide? Yes, thanks. So just a brief background on what informed this particular study between ourselves and the academic research unit at Wits University. It was really premised on the basis that we had, the university had implemented a first-year experience program for many years. And what we realized was that there's a lot of research that has been done to inform particularly university mentorship programs, focusing on or leaning more to sort of like high impact type of practices that support student success. So Wits University, as many of you may know, has what we call a first year experience mentorship program, or FYE program, that operates centrally and independent of the faculties, but also collaborates quite closely with faculties, where each first year student is allocated a mentor in, as far as possible, the same discipline within that particular faculty. So this year, the faculty student advisors were instrumental in identifying the registered first year students according to specific disciplines, and the student transitions and persistence unit had identified the mentors as well as the training for those mentors to participate in those particular program. So in our review of sort of like trying to establish why this was a topic, a research topic of interest for us, was really informed by the fact that despite having mentors available for first year students, we realized that there was a lot of students that either didn't understand what the benefits of being part of a mentorship relationship would be for them, hence not participating in it. And or if they did participate, for whatever reason, would drop out after block 1 or block 2. That's when we looked into the work that was done by Black and Taylor, who did extensive work in this field, and they looked particularly into the fact that exploring the concept of mentorability. So what mentorability means, and if you try and Google it, it's quite difficult to get a succinct meaning, but according to Black and Taylor, mentorability really refers to the capacity or potential of an individual to benefit from a mentoring relationship. So a lot of the research primarily focused on mentoring programs, where they address the role of the mentors and the elements that have to be embedded in that. But there's very little done on work done on the role of the mentees in this particular relationship. So that's basically why we decided to look at this in terms of exploring how students perceive their own mentorability and willingness to participate in a mentoring program. And Paul, Crespi and Lopez, sorry, just go back to the previous slide. Crespi and Lopez also did some interesting research, where they focused on sort of like the benefits of the mentoring program, and that really increasing interpersonal competencies, proactivity, self-reliance, self-awareness, etc. And also highlighting the importance of students being receptive to acquiring those. So as you can see from a lot of the theoretical underpinnings, it's getting more into focusing on the role of mentees in the relationship, and developing their and exploring their capacity to see how they can benefit from this. So Black and Taylor then developed a mentorability scale, which was based on a systematic review of mentoring, post-secondary mentoring literature. They did this by conducting interviews across 187 mentoring programs. And from that investigation, they realized that actually no one is talking to the mentees. And that informed our slide, our research question. You may proceed to the next slide. Thank you. So we adopted a mixed method study, and which consisted of focus group discussions, and the sampling method was purposive. And what we identified was current mentees, meaning mentees that are in the program this year, former mentees who participated as first years last year and are currently in their second year, and then mentees who discontinued the program. So in total, 21 students participated in these 6 focus groups. Although 42 students were initially targeted, 21 attended despite follow-ups. The recruitment for this cohort, for the focus group, was done telephonically and followed up by email confirmation. And the factors that affected the students' participation was proximity to the exam time, flu season, and that led to last-minute cancellations. So the broad focus of those areas are identified on the left-hand side of the slide, which the focus groups really focused on what were the students' transitioning experience and their needs, their understanding of mentorability, the experience of the mentor-mentee interactions, a sense of their reciprocity and engagement during the interactions, and basically just exploring their attitudes towards change and growth. The second, you may move to the next slide. The second part of the methodology was, can we move to the next slide, please? Thank you. Okay, so that's basically just talking about the demographics of the focus groups. As you can see there, all of the focus groups were sort of lasted between 90 to 120 minutes. The thematic analysis for that data is currently underway, as we've just basically come up with the codes for the to inform the themes, and the team is currently analyzing the focus group data. Thank you. We can move to the next slide. Right, so the second component that we did was basically implement the mentorability scale by arranging various check-in meetings with specific faculties, and we did that by requesting 10-minute faculty slots at the end of a particular lecture. And we distributed the mentorability scale via QR codes, which the students were required to then complete. In addition to that, we posted a survey link on the faculty learning management sites, and the survey link was also posted on the FYE learning management site. In terms of the data analysis, when I proceed to that section, you'll see that means were calculated according to the average of students' responses per item, and frequencies were also calculated to see how the responses were distributed across each of the scales. Right, so just to give you a sense of the sample demographics that we had for the second part of the mentorability scale administration. We had a sample size there of 973. first-year students, which is 15% of the overall first-year student numbers adverts at the moment. Of the 973 students that completed the mentorability scale via QR code, 73% of those students are currently participating in a mentoring relationship. From the faculty perspective, you're probably wondering, you can see that the engineering and built environment faculty, we've got quite 64% of our sample comes from that faculty. And that was largely because that was the faculty that was more amenable to allocating the 10-minute slots for us to be able to access that particular student body. 57% of the cohort was female, and that's translating into 530, and 43% were male, and that equates to 400 male first-year students. In terms of the race demographics, you can see 86% of our sample was Black African students, 1% Chinese, 2% colored, 6% Indian, and 6% of those students were white. We may move to the next slide. Thank you. So in terms of the sample demographic descriptors, we thought it was important for us to understand the profile of the students completing the mentorability scale. And you can see there that we have the large majority of our students predominantly coming from quintile 3 and 5. 62% stay off campus or in private residences or with their families, and 38% of the sample stayed on campus. In terms of funding, 71% of our students were not self-funded, meaning that they were either receiving NSFAS funding, and 23% of those students were self-funded, and 6% did not complete that particular question. So this slide shows the quantitative tool that was developed by Black and Taylor in 2018 that was used in our research to measure the first-year mentee's commitment to the FYE mentoring relationship and the mentee qualities deemed important for those relationships. So you can see that they have two components. The one component looks at the mentee commitment to the FYE relationship and sort of like what they are willing to bring to that. And the students, the scales are ranked from 1 to 7, 1 not important to 7 extremely important, and the students then had to rank which they felt resonated mostly with them in terms of the items that were listed on the first part of the scale. The second part of the scale looks at the mentee qualities deemed important for the FYE mentoring relationship. And there again, we can see that the same ranking applies in terms of the scale, and they then had to rank the attributes or the qualities that they were willing to invest in this particular relationship. We may proceed to the next slide. So in terms of the scale interpretations, the scales were converted into interval data for compliance with inferential testing assumptions, if required, for parametric testing to be done initially. The method that we used was a method that was done by Mohammed Ben Hima in 2021, because he had quite an interesting way of converting the range in terms of in how intervals are calculated for a 7-point scale. And the scales, as you can see, rank from not at all important to extremely important, and anything below 4.3 or neutral is of less importance, and anything above 4.43 is deemed important. We can proceed to the next slide. So overall, the overall analysis in terms of the commitment to the FYE program, we can see that on the 10 items that were listed in the commitment scale, all of the items were deemed very important, with the exception of question 4, which was to participate in co-curricular activities with your mentor and discuss your social life with your mentor. Now, it's very interesting that, and this is what we're also seeing in, the feedback that we're getting from our mentors, is that there isn't a desire for mentees to participate in social type of engagements. And I think it's something that we're wanting to explore further once we get the transcript analysis done, to understand what that is. Because at the moment we don't understand if it's partly due to a lack of overall disengagement in terms of not wanting to participate in community-based type of engagements, or not seeing the valuing of sharing the experiences in a particular group. There's a definite also sense of not wanting to wanting the experience to be more formalized rather than social. We can proceed to the next slide. When we go to the mentee qualities, again, we can see that the mentees are saying that all of the items are important, with the exception of 2, which is communication and a good listener, being ranked as very, very important. Now, when we were looking at the data, we thought that this was really interesting because these particular mentees that have completed the questionnaire saying communication is really important and being a good listener is really important. However, we're not seeing this translate into behavior. And in the sense where often mentors would initiate either send emails or set up dates for particular sessions, and the mentees would either blue tick them or not communicate that they were not going to be attending a particular session. But I think the important thing is that we're seeing that from the mentee perspective, that they're realizing that these qualities are important in a mentorship partnership. We can proceed to the next slide. Thank you. Now, this slide shows the frequencies and percentages across the scale for the entire cohort of students that have completed it, with most frequencies in the upper ranks of the scale. So as you can see, moderately to very important to extremely important has seen quite a high percentage of responses in terms of both mentees' commitment and the importance of mentee qualities, once grouped as a collective. We can proceed to the next slide. So what we then thought was, how do we then try and make this information faculty specific, to see if there were any nuanced differences in particular faculties. So for example, if you look at CLM, listening to your mentor is deemed as extremely important. And in health sciences, attending regular meetings with your mentor as moderately important, okay? And for the health sciences, we can probably attribute that to the workload in that particular discipline, the challenges around navigating clinical space. And so obviously, in terms of working with health sciences, we probably would have to look at modifying the current program structure to accommodate those particular needs. So what we are doing in terms of the data analysis is really just trying to look at what are the nuanced variances that are appearing specifically for different faculties. We can proceed to the next slide. In terms of the mentee qualities, once again, it's interesting to note if we look at EBE, all of the mentee qualities to a lesser are ranked to a lesser importance than all of the other faculties. And being proactive was rated of lesser impact once, which correlates with the themes that we're going to be discussing later on. So once again, we also just looking at, okay, what does this tell us of the profile of students that are in a particular faculty that will influence the investment in a mentoring relationship. So in terms of our understanding of mentorability, what we were looking at from the data that we presented was really just to understand what students' predispositions and abilities to engage in a mentorable relationship are. And the findings indicate for us that this fit sample that we completed the scale suggests that the students are highly mentorable and that the mentors are seen as a resource to help them, navigate specific transitions within their faculties and disciplines. However, it's evident that social engagement is not valued in mentoring relationships, and that our understanding of these social engagements could be impacted by factors like COVID-19, where there was less of a focus or our need to engage socially was impacted on. And so social connections are not really valued. We also realized through some of our data that it's easy for the first year students to conflate mentoring support with academic tutoring. And we'd like to assert that the mentor is a step ahead in the transitional space, in the sense that they become a guide by the side. So often what happens is mentees or first-year students seem to deem academic tutoring as being more beneficial than having a mentor allocated to them. Okay. We can move to the next slide. Thank you. So in terms of understanding, mentorability, we've identified several critical themes that have informed our understanding or are important indicators of what are the barriers to engagement, particularly within first-year student participation. And in the QR code, when we sent this prior to the scale, we asked the students a few questions that would help us understand what what factors are preventing students from participating. And so we've grouped them into the following themes. Obviously, the first one is time management and academic schedules. So again, you can see poor time management skills are coming up, high workload, insufficient time, or conflicting schedules, and meetings with their mentors often clash with the academic timetables. The second big theme was the perception and importance or the value of mentoring. And quite a few students have indicated that it feels like it's less important or not as important. Some do not regard it as important and see it as a waste of time. There's the misperception of the role of the mentor, a sense that the mentor will not understand what they're going through. And often the theme that comes up is they think the cause won't chow. So, and I think that's basically, again, alluding to the academic demands that they experience. The negative perception of mentorship is they believe that mentors are not worth the time and they are able to to be independent. They lack the lack of effort from mentors, not enough engagement with mentors, or mentors not showing up. So I think for us, those are important components to look at in terms of program implementation. And then lack of engagement. Some of the mentees feel quite confident or overconfident in the ability to navigate the first year experience. For others, it's more related to their own ability to show up in particular contexts. So feeling shy, feeling fears of judgment, nervous about speaking up in a group, low self-confidence, and so forth. Personal attitudes and behaviors was another theme that was identified, and that was sort of like not feeling like they had a connection with the mentors, or a lack of connection with that. A strong theme around the expectation that the mentor should assist them with academic tasks, and some feeling that mentors may not provide relevant advice, and some saying they do not take time to participate in the FYE mentorship program if they feel the mentor is not engaging. Can we proceed to the next slide, please? Okay. And then other themes, once again, was the quality of mentorship. Overwhelmed by the academic workload, difficulty in social interactions, initial adjustment to university life, and then just a general lack of interest, which was really a small sample. But I think that's the information that we're getting from the first year students, and it ranges from either high workloads, not understanding what the mentoring relationship entails, an expectation that mentors will help them with the academics, and a sense that some students feel that they are able to navigate the space without assistance. Okay, we can move to the last slide. Thank you. And then in terms of what students are also saying is, so we asked the first year students to sort of like give us insight into why they feel students might not want to take that up. And from their perspective, it was more around inadequate preparation for the year, laziness, fear and frustration, and a lack of dedication and or effort. Okay. Right. Can we move to the next slide, please?
Sorry, Dr. Zena, you have 5 minutes left.
Yes, yeah, this is the last slide.
Okay,
So
excellent.
I think in terms of recommendations for future study, we would be quite keen to sort of like administer the scale to all first year students before they access university. I think there's also other indicators that we need to look at in terms of whether they are part of scholarship or bursary programs that already provide mentors or other types of support. We would also like to explore whether the self-perceptions of mentorability is correlated with a semester or 1 year retention rates. And then we'd like to do sort of like more inferential statistics to measure the significance of the differences observed in our descriptive findings. And I think, you know, for us, we feel that if a supportive and engaging mentorship environment is created, we do believe that the university can really enhance the first year experience, and also which would lead to improved student outcomes and a stronger academic community amongst the first year students that participate in the program. Thank you.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Dr. Zena. This was really insightful. I would like to just check with you. When you said you are given 10 minutes to explain what mentorship is and how it can help the students, When do you do this, and how do you do you sell it as something that's additional to the tutoring program?
Thanks, Nozuko. So the 10 minutes in our methodology was really a request to all of the faculties to allocate us 10 minutes at the end of a lecture period for us to administer the mentorability scale. So at this point, it's not about us selling the program to the students. Initially, the students are introduced to the concept during the Gateway to Success program, but I think your suggestion is something that we might have to look into in terms of how do we advertise that to students as something that would be beneficial to them.
Thanks for that, Dr. Zena. If I can ask or touch on a point you made about what you found was that students saw mentorship as a requirement to be formalized rather than a social engagement. Can you just touch on that further, please?
So it's, from what the data is saying is that it seems that students don't want to sort of like have a social type of engagement with the mentors. They prefer for it to be quite structured and clear, leaning more towards academic type of support. So the sense that we're getting is that students are, because of the heavy workload, having academic tutoring is perceived to be more beneficial than having a meeting with a group of other first years, to talk about transitioning issues or what they could learn from that particular type of interaction. So it's negating the fact that besides your academic workload, the other processes that you have to navigate, and your mentor can be quite a pivotal, play a pivotal role in that process of helping you navigate those, transitions, whatever they may be. But it's not going to be about tutoring you in a specific academic subject.